Big shout out to you for making it through the hectic holiday season. This new year, get clean, quality, pregnancy nutrient support off your to-do list, including Ritual's best-selling Essential Prenatal Multivitamin, designed with 12 traceable key ingredients to support a healthy pregnancy. With big changes coming up, take the small steps now and start today with 30% off a 3-month supply at ritual.com/podcast. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Sports Card Nation, the hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews, it's your number one source. Sports Card Nation, the hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 320 of Sports Card Nation. As always, glad to be back, battling a little cold, but that being said, I'm actually using this product called Magic Mind Mental Performance Shot. Not using it for the cold. I've actually been using it for about 3 weeks now. A buddy of mine I work with at school I saw him drink this thing, little shot, green liquid. Turns out it's all natural ingredients, 12 of them. Their tagline's Reclaim Your Brain. Said, hey, man, you want to try it? I love this thing. Gets me kind of focused and mental clarity. I don't believe in stuff like that, but he offered me one to try for free. I didn't try it that day. Waited till the next morning and took it. And I got to be honest with you, for being skeptical, really seems to hit the spot. Really kind of focused, locked in, some of the mental clarity, and really like the product. And even with the cold that I'm going through, it's not a cold medicine, so it's not going to cure the cold or make that necessarily feel better. But I see when, as someone who gets colds every so often, I don't have that sort of brain fog and thickness that I have a lot of times, or that a lot of us have when I'm battling my cold. And so really like this product. So much so I did something I don't normally do. Reached out to the company, kind of told them how I discovered their product and that I like it and what I do with this podcast, and see if they wanted to offer kind of a discount and a show and a promo code, which they agreed to do. So you will find that promo code in the show notes if this is something, Magic Mind, if it's something you're interested in. Again, I'm a user probably for about a month now, and really like it, and really hits the spot and gets my day started on the right foot. Speaking of on the right foot, we've got Isaac Alpert returning for the conclusion of our conversation to Pennysleever.com. Great supplies, great prices. We're going to learn more about the company, what he's doing, future plans, chop up some more hobby. This is the conclusion of our conversation from last week. So, and there's a promo code for their great products as well. So 2 promo codes in today's show notes, and if you want to partake in any of those products, I use both of them. So I'm not just promoting it, I'm a user of said product. So with that being said, we're going to take a quick break and be right back with the conclusion of our conversation with Isaac Alpert.
Hi, I'm Isaac Alpert, a longtime card collector and the co-founder of the Pennysleever. My wife and I started the Pennysleever with a simple premise in mind: to offer collectors top quality supplies at fair prices. We offer a full range of hobby supplies and we'll get them to you fast. Whether you're looking for a 260-point magnetic for that oversized patch card, or a slew of semi-rigids for your next PSA submission, the Pennysleever has you covered. Shop now at thepennysleever.com and use the promo code SCNation to get 10% off your first order. That's SCNation for 10% off at thepennysleever.com. The Pennysleever. Top quality supplies, fair prices.
All right, now the conclusion of our interview with Isaac Alpert of the Pennysleever.com.
I'm not pro-grader. I'm not anti-grader. I know that there are some people that are, strictly graded cards. And at the moment, we don't have any products to accommodate them. And so one of the very first things that we started when we started planning the second line of products was to make sure that we were going to get graded card sleeves. And then the next thing was talking to collectors about what is it, what feature do you look for? And again, when you spend 24 hours a day thinking about supplies like I do, you start asking all these really weird questions. What is the difference between 50 mil and 60 mil? One of them feels a little bit more smooth in your hand, but the other one is a little bit more, maybe a little bit better protection. So you're asking all these questions, and so I have to go. I reach out to other collectors. What's more important to you? Do you want it to be 100% clear? Would you rather that it be thicker for more protection? And then try to reach that point where we can satisfy as many people as we can. So yes, my own collecting background was definitely beneficial, but it's also important to listen to the way other people, approach their hobby.
So, you launched Pennysleever, in overseas, and now you're in the States. Was there did that change anything? Was that difficult, or it was just a matter of where you're located and getting, supplies shipped to you?
It was honestly more of a lifestyle change than it was a change in, obviously we were never going to be able to operate the business the way we wanted to from overseas. The decision to come to the US was, that was made in advance of starting the Pennysleever up, but it definitely, we took advantage of the opportunities, having that ability to communicate very easily with the factories and to get samples in our hand and to judge for ourselves. That was really important. Obviously, one of the challenges is, being so far away that you're dependent on, getting things through the mail, and it takes, days, if not weeks, to do that. And so we were very fortunate that we were able to take care of a lot of those things before we came. For me, it was more of readapting to life in the US. That was the bigger challenge. I lived without driving for about 20 years. I mean, even now, I'm still a very tentative driver. Turns out that 20 years of not driving kind of takes the edge off. And so, but in terms of the business, we did as much as we could before we got back to the US. And it was only once we got here that, things started to really take shape. It went from being a concept to being real once we got here.
You mentioned, doing shows. How many shows do you do? I obviously every month is different. Different parts of the year have more shows than others. And when you do shows, are you always set up, or will you even just walk around the room, repping, the Pennysleever.com?
I think I actually just tallied it up yesterday. I think we've done 25 days at shows since we started in June. And we try to do at least one a weekend. If it's possible to do two, then we do them. I haven't really had any opportunity to visit a show just as a guest. We just keep busy. We set up initially. This is one of the ways in which, what we expected was different from, or what reality offered us was different from what we expected. Initially, I sort of imagined setting up at shows and sort of giving out our sample cards and getting them in people's hands and not really selling and just using it as a promotional tool. And we very quickly learned that actually this is an important driver of sales for us. Selling them at card shows, getting them in people's hands is very important because the quality, we're selling a quality product and people need to see it and feel it to know that. But that was one way in which it was very different. But the card shows have been a really important way of getting out, reaching people, reaching collectors, talking and listening, and just sort of getting a pulse for where the hobby is, which is something, you really can't do. The collecting community in Hong Kong is very strong, but it's very, very different from what you find in the US. And in terms of shows, we've done all sorts. We do small shows. We've done some large shows. Every show offers something a little bit different for us. And it's a very interesting experience talking with other dealers, talking with collectors, and just sort of trying to figure out how we fit into the whole ecosystem.
The national, is maybe setting up there, in the future. I know they're expanding. They're under new leadership. Is that I know you go, but is maybe being actually having a table, a booth? Is that something that you hope's on the horizon?
It's obviously, that's sort of the crown jewel. I think anybody in the hobby, whether, going as a collector or going as a vendor, that's got to be up there on the wish list. And I would be lying if I said I don't want to. I would say that we're still quite a ways away, just in terms of the economics of setting up at the national. And we're not there yet. But if we keep working at it, I think someday it's realistic. Right now, we're focusing more. What we've learned is that we do very, very well at the small to mid-size shows. The economics we've learned of selling supplies is quite different from that of selling cards. The vendors who are there, I talk to a lot of them after shows, and for many of the dealers, it's a matter of one or two good sales can either make your weekend or kill you. And for us, it's a matter of scale. When you're selling magnetics and top loaders at $2 or $5 or $10 or $20 a pop, you need to sell quite a lot of them to make it worthwhile. And obviously that's a lot easier to do when you're spending $50 or $75 or $100 on a table versus, $500 or $1,000 or however high it goes. And so, we don't want to get in over our heads. We're trying to do things responsibly. It's a family business and we run it as such. We don't have, millions of dollars of venture capital behind us. It's basically, my wife and I's savings. And so right now,
back in 1980, 70% of clothing worn by Americans was made by Americans. Today, it's 2%. And the reason is simple. It's cheaper to make things overseas. But that doesn't change the fact that 2% of textile manufacturers have refused to give up on this country. And those companies deserve to be congratulated. I'm talking about companies like American Giant. American Giant controls every link in their supply chain, and that matters because when you buy from American Giant, you create jobs for people in factory towns all across this country. Look, I get it. Nobody wants a lecture. But if you want to see more companies make more things in this country, you got to support the companies who are already doing that very thing. This holiday, check out the clothing at American-Giant.com. Flannels, hoodies, T-shirts, and jeans made to last a lifetime. Support the 2% who are still making it here at American-Giant.com.
If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
We're trying to grow responsibly and modestly. We do the shows because it's a great way of keeping up with what's going on. And truthfully, I love the environment. It was probably 35 years between my last show as a collector and the first show we did back in June as a vendor. And I could I almost felt myself being transported. I mean, obviously a lot has changed, but a lot is incredibly similar to what I remember as a kid. And that was very comforting to me in a way, setting up there.
Yeah, no doubt. Great point by you too, Isaac, with, I get asked like, hey, I try to go to every national. Sometimes people even assume like I have a table. They're like, where are you located, John? And I'm be like, you're looking at where I'm located. I'm walking around like everyone else, and you realize like, and you can get a lot of done on foot without even having necessarily a permanent spot. I'm sure you would agree with that, and
Sure.
you have to justify the cost. That's the
Yeah.
Super Bowl of the hobby show. It comes with a cost, and while it definitely gets the most eyes, it's going to come at the biggest price. And so,
Yeah.
you have to opportunity cost. You have to weigh that, and I fully get that. I just figured I'd ask. Since you launched Pennysleever.com, has your collecting changed in it? How you collect at all?
Absolutely. That's a great question. It has. Part of it, I've changed the way I collect for a couple of different reasons. One of them, obviously, is financial. I have much more limited resources. Whatever money we have is going either into sustaining our day-to-day life or going into the business. And so I don't have quite the same disposable income that I used to have for collecting. But that's actually a good thing because that's taught me to be a lot more focused. And part of that has also come from the people that I've met in the hobby that, I've been quite fortunate. I think, some of it is just is working hard and reaching out to people. And part of it is that people have been very generous with their time and advice. You mentioned the National, and I have a confession to make because I know nobody is going to be listening. It's just you and me chatting here. I didn't actually attend the National. I was there. Mike Moynihan has been a really good friend to us, and he invited me to his YouTuber get-together. And my wife and I, we packed up the car. We drove from Massachusetts out to Cleveland. We were there for one night, and then we did the event. And then the next morning, we drove back to Massachusetts to keep the business running. And so, I feel like I was on the edge. I was national adjacent, but unfortunately, I did not have the opportunity to attend. But anyhow, getting back to your original question.
Well, let me. I just want to interject there. That's
Sure.
where we met.
Yes.
Listen. If whether you attended a national or not, I think that was a very productive night for you and the company. And so, sometimes like the National's great, but sometimes we can overblow certain aspects of it. So I think for the one day you were there, right, you got a lot of traction and a lot of momentum. I believe. I don't want to.
Absolutely. It was just the Pennysleever, Mr. Pennysleever, and me was very, very happy. I met so many great people face to face. Had a lot of great, if brief, conversations. I wish that event had gone on for 24 hours. I could have spent all that time talking to you. But the collector in me just wants to go and walk the floor. But some of the people that I met, I mean, a lot of very familiar names to I'm sure a lot of your listeners, but I don't, I'm loath to mention anybody lest I forget someone. But, just listening to the way that people, collect and learning to be more judicious in your collecting. And so at this point, I've sort of narrowed it down to two focuses. I'm working on a very low grade Diamond Stars set, the 34 to 36 Diamond Stars, which again, it comes back to aesthetics. I love the look of those cards. And, to me, an SGC 1 is the way, a 90-year-old card is supposed to look. And so I'm working on that set, one card at a time. And I'm working on my PSA 8 and above Padres 1969 to 1980 run. And, I'll pick up a little bit here and there if something pops up to me at a show. I've actually been enjoying seeing the way the hobby has gone in the direction of art cards. And so there are a couple of hobby friends that I've made that do those. And so, I always warn them, I'm coming, so don't have any Tony Gwynns out, because if you have a Tony Gwynn, it's going home with me. So I do pick up a little bit here and there, but for the most part, I've learned to sort of target what I collect, which is something that I never really did before. It was always the kid in a candy shop kind of approach to collecting, like, oh, this looks good. Let's try this. Or, oh, I don't have one of these. And now I'm taking pleasure in sort of weeding it out and just narrowing it down to those, two very different aspects of my collection. That's where my collecting is right now.
Yeah, no doubt. That's probably smart. More people probably take a page, right? More discipline. What do I really want to focus on, and what are really moving my meter? What am I really going to enjoy, right?
I think it comes with aging.
Yeah.
I definitely believe that, the older you get, the more you start to get a sense of, the limitations, in time and in finances, and really you become a little bit more laser focused on making the most of what you have available to you, rather than, I no longer harbor dreams of being a major league player. I know that ship has sailed. So, you become, as you age, I guess I'm entering that age of realism. And so, the Pennysleever is the big dream, and my collection is going to be something a little more attainable, hopefully.
There you go. I chuckled when you talked about that, because I too, I still play men's competitive softball, but played baseball through all the way up through high school. Was a pretty good ball player during that time. People listen to the show will joke, because I told the story. I was one win away from a Little League World Series berth. Did not get it. My team lost. I was the losing pitcher of record in that game. Actually, the only game I lost that year, and gave up a home run to someone you're probably very familiar with, being Boston centric, and Jason Varitek. And I think that ball's still going. And Jason Varitek, he wasn't Jason Varitek as we know him today yet, but he was, Jason Varitek, 13-year-old, very good ball player, little leaguer. And his team and himself went on to Williamsport, and we had to watch them on the other dugout sort of celebrate that, and be pretty disappointed. But so hearing you talk about wanting to be a major leaguer, that's probably as close as I got, was giving up to one that would become one, giving up a finger. So
if it makes you feel any better, you were about 5 steps closer than I ever got. So
yeah.
and truthfully, I mean, this may be the English teacher in me, but if you come away with something with a good story, it was worth it. And giving up a home run to Jason Varitek is a pretty damn good story to have in your arsenal.
Yeah, I laugh more about it now than I did at the day of, as a grown man and not a 13-year-old. And it was funny, some years ago, I was at Disney World with my son. He was probably about 13, 14 at the time. And so about 11 years ago. And I saw Jason Varitek about like 100 feet away in line. Oh. And my son, who knew about the story at that point, he didn't recognize, he didn't know it was, I pointed out, hey, there's Jason Varitek right there with his family. And my son's like, you should go over, Dad, you should go over and like introduce yourself and see if he remembers that. And to make the long story short, I didn't. He was with his family. I didn't want to I didn't want to bother him. And what are you going to say? Oh yeah, I remember you hit the, it would have been a weird exchange. And so I didn't do that, but it was funny, like almost a full circle moment. My son wanted me to go over there, but I just didn't know how you do that and like,
sure,
not be that guy. Like, oh, Jesus, guys, what is he stalking me? All these years later.
Well, now that you have the podcast platform, maybe you can invite him on and do it in a more respectable manner. Because
that would be funny. I might at some point, maybe I'll get the chutzpah to reach out to him or try to get contact and, obviously talk about more than that, including his career and not Little League World Series, but a real World Series. And, it would be funny. It's something that the thought now is in the back of my thanks to. So maybe if he's, approachable and agreeable, maybe that's something we'll see hopefully in the future. That would be definitely interesting. All these years later, and that just makes me wonder how much, with all the accolades he had, he He went even to a college World Series, obviously World Series with the Red. I wonder how much of the Little League stuff does he actually even remember that hasn't been like phased out, with some of the bigger accolades that came after that. But maybe someday we can have that conversation.
Time for a quick break, but we'll be right back.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com, or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Thanks for sticking with us. Let's return to the show.
Speaking of future things, I mean, for the Pennysleever, what's on the horizon? I know you said you don't like to give dates, but maybe products. One thing I'm gonna throw at you, while I'm not this myself, right, a comic book collector, I know that's a huge industry as well. Is that something maybe down the line you'll throw your hat into that arena?
Yeah, I mean, these are things that we have talked about. We ultimately we would like to try to provide the same level of quality and service across all different collectibles, because collectibles are meant to be fun, and we'd like to do that. But the most important thing is that whatever we do, we want to be able to do it right. And the reason why we started with the sports cards is because that's honestly the area that I'm most familiar with. We want to be respectful of collectors. It's very easy to be condescending and just to tell people what they should do, what they shouldn't do. But I don't think that's the right approach. That's one of the things with the TCGs, with the Pokemon cards. I admit straight away, I don't know very much about them. I have a great deal of respect. We've learned a lot about them. We've done a number of TCG-oriented shows. And one of the things that I actually admire is that there's a sense of joy that sometimes is missing from some of the sports card shows. The collectors of the TCGs, the Pokemon and the Magic the Gathering and all those, they truly embrace it as something to be enjoyed and celebrated. And one of the things that I find a little bit troubling is that when you sometimes go to the sports card oriented shows is how serious it is. I mean, I understand there's big money involved in some cases, but if you're not enjoying it, why are you spending your Saturday morning in a VFW hall? There are plenty of nicer places, all due respect to VFW halls, but there are other places that you'd probably be having a better time if you don't enjoy the hobby. And I really admire the energy in the room with there's a lot of shouting, there's a lot of laughter, and I don't understand as much about the collectibles as I'd like, but what I do admire is the energy and enthusiasm that they bring. And I'm trying to learn more about what supplies do they need, how can we integrate ourselves into their collecting journeys, because I don't want to sell comic book bags for the sake of selling comic book bags. I want to do something that I believe in. And it sounds really nerdy, and it's probably what you would expect from somebody who has a supply company, but I really believe that our products are the highest quality you can find. I believe that we offer you a really good value. I don't want to just sell products. I want to sell something that I believe in. And so, yes, would I like to get into coins and stamps and comic books and Funko Pops and hats and pennants and all of these other things? Of course. But we're not going to do it until we truly understand, what do the collectors want? What do they need? And how are they not being served by the existing options out there? And that's why right now, we started with the sports cards. We're moving into the TCGs, and we don't want to be viewed as an interloper. We don't want to get between people and their hobby. We want to make it more enjoyable. We want to provide protection. And so that, if we do get into other hobby areas, it won't be until we really understand what it is we're doing, or we partner up with somebody who can really educate us on it, because that's very important to me and my wife, that when we do it, we're doing it in a respectful way.
Kudos to you for saying that, because it reminds me of a conversation I actually recently had. I set up at shows, Isaac, as a dealer, and obviously I sell, baseball, football, basketball, hockey cards. And one of my customers says, "Hey, how come you don't sell Pokemon cards or TCG?" And my answer was very simple, is I don't know that. I don't know enough about it. I don't want to just, throw a showcase on a table for the sake of dollars and cents and not be passionate about it and know about it. It's not something I'm probably going to collect per se, but I also do bulk subbing for SGC. And so I get those cards as part of those submissions. And I've learned a little bit through that, but not enough, again, still not enough to be a reseller of cards, or, putting them out in the showcase, that sort of thing. So hearing you say that really attests to sort of my answer to why I don't, sell certain things until like the knowledge is there to sort of, and passion behind it. So I know exactly what you mean, because I have some, on a different scale, I have the same answer to why don't you sell that and that sort of thing. So I get that. But, like you said, you can align with someone who can fill in those blanks. I mean, if it was something I really wanted to do, I'm a fairly quick study. It's just, you got to have that passion for it too, right? You got to want to, people see whether you're you care, or you're just sort of going through the motions. So I fully get that.
Yeah, and truthfully, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but you probably set up at shows because you enjoy cards. You enjoy sports cards. I mean, I had a conversation with a dealer we were set up next to, and how sometimes around 2:00 the room starts to get really, really quiet, and you kind of look around and you look, and there were so many people and they weren't smiling, and I said to the guy, we're not selling heart stents here. We're not, if you're not enjoying what you're selling, then why are you doing it? But there were just so many dealers with this super serious look on their face. And I look around, and there were a couple of Pokemon dealers, and they looked like they were just, they'd just gotten back from Honolulu or something, big smiles on their faces. And, I just wish that, that everybody in the hobby could feel that way, because, if you love it, there's nothing better on a Saturday afternoon. If you don't enjoy it, go parasailing. There are plenty of other things that you should do. You should embrace what you enjoy in life. for me and obviously for you as well, you've found something that you enjoy doing. And I think that we're both very fortunate that we were able to devote a good chunk of our time to something that we truly enjoy spending our time with. And, time is short. Spend it well.
Yeah, well said. And you're right. You know what I mean? I did my first show as a 15-year-old kid in 1987. And I'll be honest with you, that first show, Isaac, it was a peer pressure. It was all my collecting buddies like, you have the best collection. You work at a card store. You set up. And I did it and had no bedside manner, no kind of business sense. I did well in spite of that fact. And it became a passion. It became a labor of love. And I enjoyed being at the show. And I've said this on this very podcast, is some of my favorite shows have nothing to do with the money till at the end. It's the conversations I had with people during the course of the day. I mean, the best show is one where you do well on both of those accounts, right? Yeah, you have great conversations and you do well. But even some of the ones where I haven't done as well in the till, let's say, I had some awesome conversations with awesome people, and sometimes you can't put a price on that either. And so, like you said, if you're at a show, I hope you're enjoying yourself in some form or fashion, because 6 to 8 hours, especially if you're set up and you're not having fun, that can be a grind, and that's not what the hobby's really supposed to be about. I know there are aspects of grinding, but if the whole day becomes a grind, then you're probably going to get burnt out or not enjoy the hobby as other people. So I hear you 100% on that. Well,
I'm curious.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. This is something that I always want to ask people and people that set up shows. I'm curious, how much time do you spend preparing for a show before you attend it, in terms of, just all of the preparation, setting up your showcases, pricing up? I'm just curious about how much time it takes you to get ready for it.
I will say this, Isaac, less now than, let's say, it did 15, 20 years ago. And here's why. I've always priced my cards. I know some dealers go without pricing, easier, less time consuming. So yes, I have to sort of recomp things sometimes, but in the current market we're in, stuff's sort of settled down. So the prices have been they are what they are. Obviously there's outliers to that. Someone's hot, an award, someone wins rookie year, MVP, that sort of thing. So I'm not spending a lot of time pricing, and what I've done a better job at is sort of packing my stuff up in the order of like it's going to get put back out at the next show. So it's already sort of in boxes, and the boxes are assigned like that showcase number 1, that box, showcase number 2. So probably an hour or two leading.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Joe Montana here. In my football days, I knew the importance of a strong defense. Now I'm sharing how you can help defend your health against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease. Are you 50 or older like me? The CDC now recommends vaccination against pneumococcal disease. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at increased risk and over 6 times greater risk of hospitalization with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50. Schedule your appointment today at vaxassist.com.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Up to a show. If you asked me that question many years ago, I'd probably tell you 10 to 12 hours leading up to a show. And then every show is different. Right. But generally that's That's on average. But that I might speak more to my little bit of OCD when it comes to organization. And I have dealer friends of mine who I kind of set up with in the same circles, and they're like, "Man, you got it down to a science. Like, why'd you do that, or how long did that take?" And I'm like, "It took 25, 30 years, but now it doesn't take long." Because I've already spent all that time. That time's already spent, and
Right.
so it takes me an hour or two now, but that's because I spent 10 to 12 from each leading up to each show for many years. So I've got it down, I guess, to sort of a science now, but that was after many, many years of longer prep time. So that's how I'd answer that. But even that hour or two, Isaac, like it's I enjoy it. I'm glad it's only an hour or two, but I really appreciate the fact that it's just the hour. And in some cases, if the shows are really like, let's say, back-to-back weekends, it may even be less than that, because I'm sort of packing up in the way I'm going to reset up, and so it won't take me as long as to prep for the next show. When there's more space between the shows, like let's say it's 2 to 3 weeks or longer between my next show, that's where maybe the prep time may be a little bit longer, because there's more has happened in that time period. So there's the answer to that. But when I tell other dealers that, they're sort of shocked by that. They're like, "Man, I was working 5 hours just the other night to get ready for this show." And I'm like, "Well, I did that. I just did it for 20 years. You haven't done it for, so trust me, like you'll get, it's just, it's like tenure. You just got to get there. I just put in my time where it doesn't take me as long now. I used to be worse. I've told this story on the podcast. I used to pack my stuff up in alphabetical order, Isaac. So when I packed up, I'd have to get by last name, all the players by A's, by B's, C, to the point my son, who would help me out, would be like, "Dad, just throw them in the box. Let's get out of here, dude." And he stopped helping me, because we were there 2 to 3 hours after the shows was over, just sort of like packing up. Like, I want to go home, man. Come on. So I don't do that now. Now I actually pack up by how it's laid out in the showcases. Before, I was doing it in alpha. And
that's the time of the show that I have the most envy towards the card dealers, because I think a lot of them are like you now, where they just sort of swoop it out of the showcase and pack it all up and go. And when you've got a table full of top loaders and magnetics that you have to break down, that's where I'm quite jealous. Is they're all out in the parking lot while we're still the last table breaking down at the show.
If it makes you feel better, I was that guy for many years. I was the last. There were times, I'm not even kidding about this, where the promoter couldn't leave. He couldn't lock the, he rented the facility. He'd have to wait till I was done. He couldn't lock the doors with someone. And I would know him very well and be like, "Come on, John, let's go, man." And I'd have to like really kick it into the next gear and almost apologize. Like, "Hey, I'm sorry." And I've streamlined that now where that's not an issue anymore, but there are promoters that would tell you, I like John and I hate him at the same time. I want to go home. Well, Isaac, I appreciate you making some time. I know you're a busy guy. Like you said, it's you and your wife running the Pennysleever. Appreciate you, being part of the show as a sponsor and making some time. I always give the guests sort of the final word. Where people, you're obviously on the show sponsor page, but being on the show, where give out your website, any social media that you want to share, where people can pick up the great supplies that you offer and see what's coming on the horizon.
Well, thanks again, John. It's been a real thrill. I'd love to talk to you every week. I've really enjoyed this. The website is thepennysleever.com. And we're on all social media. We're on Instagram, the Pennysleever. Same on Facebook. Same on Twitter. We're on Blue Sky now. And who knows where you'll find us in the future. If you check out our website on our blog, you can see where our upcoming shows are. We love it when people come up and say hello. Even if you don't happen to need any top loaders, just come by and say hello. It's always a thrill just to talk with people, just to get to know collectors. We primarily do shows around Albany, New York, and around Massachusetts and New Hampshire. But please come to the website, thepennysleever.com, check our show schedule. If you happen to need some supplies, give us a try. If you don't, feel free to send a message. I'm always happy to answer questions. And if you just want to talk a little bit of Padres baseball, you can always reach out to me as well. But thepennysleever.com, Instagram, Facebook, however you want to find us, we'd love to chat with you. So thanks again, John. It's really been a lot of fun for me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. And, I'll say this because it's true, right? Very few companies do you get to speak to the person directly responsible for what goes on. You're just, go from one customer service rep to the next. So there's something to be said about that. You're passionate, you care. I think that's why you're going to, you are successful and going to be even more successful. So you don't need me to say it, but wishing you continued success, and we'll have you back on and we'll talk. We'll talk some Padres, and I'm a Mets guy, and we'll talk some baseball and some other sports the next time you're back.
Anytime, I'd love to. Thanks, John.
I talk about great guys a lot, or great people a lot, and Isaac definitely checks those boxes, and I've gotten to know him obviously better over the last few months, and just a good dude, and doing good things, and having fun in the hobby, right? That's what we all need to try to do. So happy to have him on. We'll have to have him back on later down the line and see, kind of follow up and see how things are going. So again, thepennysleever.com. Use the promo code found in the notes. Get 10% off your whole order, and great supplies at the lowest prices probably you're going to find. So check out what they're doing there, and happy to have them part of the Sports Card Nation family. Speaking of promo codes, I mentioned Magic Mind in the intro today. Nice product that I'm using that shockingly really works for me, and I love. Again, I said I reached out to them kind of to incorporate them because what I think of the product. Go to the show notes, and there's a discount link there that takes you right to the site, if that is something you want to use yourself and get kind of locked in. So all natural ingredients, by the way. All right, we're going to hear from our Hobbies the People announcer, some closing thoughts, and wrap up this week's episode.
Time for our Hobby is the People announcer of the week.
What's up, Sports Card Nation? This is Brett McGrath with the Stacking Slabs podcast. Remember, the hobby is the people.
If you'd like to be the Hobby is the People announcer of the week, do a WAV or MP3 file and send it to sportscardnationpc@gmail.com.
That's a wrap for this week. Huge thanks to you, the listeners out there, because without you, there is no us. If you like the show, we truly appreciate positive reviews. Big ups to our great guests who drive the show and our awesome sponsors who make it all possible. Sports Card Nation will be back next week, but don't forget to catch either Hobby Quick Hits or Card Mentions coming up on Monday. I'll leave you with this. How do we change the world? One random act of kindness at a time. Remember, the hobby is the people.
For nearly 50 years, Sports Collectors Digest has been the voice of the hobby, bringing you comprehensive coverage of the sports collectible industry. From industry news, auction results, market analysis, and in-depth stories about collectors and their collections, Sports Collectors Digest has everything you need to know about the hobby. SCD is also your leading source for listings of sports collectible dealers, card shops, card shows, and the latest from the industry's top companies. To check out all the latest news or to subscribe to the hobby's oldest magazine, visit sportscollectorsdigest.com or call 1-800-829-5561.
Hobby Hotline is the hobby's only live interactive call-in show. Join some of your favorite hobby personalities every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, to discuss the hottest hobby topics. If you miss us live, catch us after the fact on all major podcast platforms. Follow us on socials at Hobby Hotline.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.